In this course on reading Latin for philosophy, we're going to have two main goals. We're going to cover basic points of grammar, and the second goal is we are going to read the entire article on the existence of God by Thomas Aquinas in the Summa Theologiae, because Thomas Aquinas presents his arguments in very logical form, and they're basically easy to follow. Unlike some of the other philosophical works that were written in Latin by some of the modern philosophers, some of those writings, they're very difficult to follow because the arguments, they're not presented in a clear fashion. So the first grammar point that I'm going to cover in this first lesson is a second conjugation verb, respondere. There are four conjugations in Latin, and then there are irregular verbs that do not follow the regular forms of the four conjugations. Latin verbs change according to the ending. So this first one here, respondeo, this is the first person singular. And we want to pay attention to the last letter. That indicates that it's a first person singular. So respondeo is I answer or I respond. The second form here is respondes. And of course that means you answer. And then we have respondet, respondemus, respondetis, and lastly respondent. And I'm going to write or put a little accent mark where I am obviously giving the accent. I am not going to go in a very detailed discussion concerning these grammar points. I'm going to make them quick, so just so that you're familiar with these points. So what you should do is you should put these forms on an index card and just test yourself and try to commit them to memory. But if you don't memorize it, then don't worry about it. One of the major snags that you can get in when you're trying to read philosophy is to focus too much on trying to memorize all these grammar rules and the conjugations and the declensions of the nouns. In my experience, it is best to just have some familiarity with some of these forms and the rules, and to just focus on trying to read as much as you can. So while you want to have some familiarity with grammar, the main focus of your studies and on this course is going to be on the reading. Here we see an example of a point that I mentioned previously. The reason why we're using Thomas Aquinas, the Summa Theologiae from Thomas Aquinas, is that it's very orderly. And we can see that here with the structure of the article that we are going to read in this course. We are going to read one of Thomas Aquinas's articles on the proof for the existence of God. And this is the structure of the article. These are key words and phrases that are going to indicate what Thomas Aquinas is going to be talking about. So even after you're done with this course and you want to read more philosophy, which is what you should do. I mean, you're going to have to read a lot of philosophy after this if you want to be fluent in reading philosophy. So as you read other articles by Thomas Aquinas, they're going to have this same structure. There might be a few words that are different according to the article, but it's basically the same structure and the same words. So for this issue, the issue is going to be whether God exists, and that's what this means right here. Thomas Aquinas will always give the issue. This one is utrum Deus sit, which means whether God exists. Utrum means whether, and Deus is God, and sit is the verb to be, and it means to exist. That is the issue. And the first thing that Thomas Aquinas will do is he will present the objections. And he's not just going to present any objections. He's going to pick out the best objections, and most of the time he will state those objections better than the opponents state them, which brings up another point of why you want to read Thomas Aquinas, because Thomas Aquinas, if you are interested in philosophy and you're interested in reading it in Latin, you are going to kill two birds with one stone. Not only are you going to learn some Latin, you are also going to learn how to argue well. So here Thomas Aquinas presents the first objection with these words right here, ad tertium sic proceditur. That means towards the third, it proceeds thus. Tertium means third, sic means so or thus, and proceditur is, it's in the passive form of the verb, and it means it proceeds. And for the second objection, because in this article he's going to present two objections. For the second objection, he uses the word praeterea, which means furthermore. Then after presenting the objections, Thomas Aquinas is going to begin giving his answer. But before he does that, he is going to cite some authority. Citing an authoritative source is a good way to give your response to an issue. Now, if all you're going to do is cite some authority, then that's not a good argument at all. In fact, that's not even giving an argument. But citing the authority, it gives credibility to what you are about to say. And so with these words right here, sed contra est quod dicitur. Sed means but, contra est means it is against, and quod means what or that which, and dicitur means it is said. So altogether it means but it is against that which is said, and then he's going to go ahead and give the authoritative source. After Thomas Aquinas cites some authority, then he will go into the substance of his answer to the issue. And here are the key words that he's going to give for his answer. Respondeo dicendum quod. Now this word right here, respondeo, should be familiar to you. It means I answer or I respond, and dicendum means it must be said, and quod means that. So altogether this means I respond, it must be said that, and then he's going to go in and give the rest of his answer. Now after Thomas Aquinas gives his answer to the issue, he is going to deal with the objections. And he's not just going to pick out whichever one was strongest. He's going to deal with each objection that he presented in the beginning. And so as Thomas Aquinas answers his first objection, he's going to say these key words. Ad primum ergo dicendum quod. And this means towards the first, ergo means therefore, it must be said that. And then when he answers the second objection, he's going to say ad secundum dicendum quod, which means towards the second, it must be said that. So even though this is just an outline of what you're going to encounter in the article, this is really the first reading. So what you want to do is you want to just maybe commit these to memory, or at least become familiar with this structure as a guide as we go through the entire article in the following lessons.